to everyone that has joined us this evening. This is our first NCPMI Leadership Community of Practice session, and we're going to have a virtual panel talking about what is leadership. And I am here to co-facilitate. My name is Lori Glenn, and I'm the current chair for the Leadership Community of Practice. And I'm joined by my partner in creativity, Samuel Quincy Campbell, who's the vice chair of our leadership COP. And we are so excited to have all of you here today. And I'm going to keep us going.
Thank you, Lori.
So this is our agenda. Hopefully you felt welcome by what I just said. We're going to talk about the Leadership COP, since this is a group within NCPMI that is being reactivated. We're going to talk about our session objectives, talk a little bit about what leadership is, and then jump into our panel discussion. And then we're going to wrap with a live Q&A. So if you got questions, hold on to those questions till we get to our Q&A, and then we will have closing remarks. Before we jump all the way in, just want to share some what we call our rules of engagement for today. This is our brave, safe space. So we want to make sure that we are respecting others in the meeting, knowing that we all have different experiences, different lives, see things differently, different perspectives, and we want to be respectful of everyone else in the meeting. We want you to engage as you feel comfortable. I'm sure there'll be some opportunities for some live engagement in the chat, but engage as you feel comfortable. And please, 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 please mute your device, whatever you are joining from. Some are on their phones, some are tablets or computers. We want you to mute your device so that it doesn't distract from the content of today. And if you're, feeling froggy, come on camera with us. We love to see your bright, shining face. As I mentioned, we will have a live Q&A at the end, so please hold your questions till then, and we're going to try to get through as many of them as we can. And to do that, we'll ask you to use the raise hand function so that we can acknowledge you. And last, but certainly not least, the PDUs that are associated with you attending this session, those that are attending live will have their PDUs reported for them based on the attendance report that we get at the end of the meeting. So that's a perk for attending live, that your PDUs will be reported for you. And if someone is watching this video later, because we are recording, that those watching afterwards would have to report their own PDUs. So I'm going to keep us moving. NCPMI Leadership Community of Practice. What's it all about? Who are they? What's going on? What's happening? The mission of this group, this new community of practice that's being reactivated, is focused on providing leadership content, giving people an opportunity to learn together, grow together. And we know we all are at different levels of leadership experience, and we want to be able to share that in this forum. So our game plan is to share content on a bi-monthly basis. So we'll have these virtual sessions every other month. And we're looking at content that is going to be vital for those in leadership positions, whether you are leading a project team, leading a company, whatever that may be. And we want to give you the opportunity to connect. We want you to engage in the chat. We want you to connect with folks on LinkedIn outside of this. We want to give you access to subject matter experts in the area of leadership as it relates to project management. We're going to share resources in those off months that we are not having a session. You're likely going to get some content that's sent out by us. Maybe it's an article on LinkedIn or a video we see on YouTube that's about leadership. And finally, it's an opportunity to come together In some sessions, we might do some role playing, get in the breakout rooms and practice some of the things that we've learned. And so that's a live opportunity to get feedback on how you are leading. And finally, these sessions will be virtual. As I mentioned, every other month, we will be sending out the information about them so you can register. And we're so excited for you to be here with us in our first session. I'm going to keep us moving. So the session is for today. We're going to talk about, our topic is, what is leadership? So you're going to hear from panelists to talk about leadership from their perspectives and from the different positions they have held. And so we're going to look at defining leadership. We're going to talk about leadership styles, leadership philosophies, because as you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So there's more than one way to be a leader. We're also going to talk about challenges of leading project teams and also provide some strategies, things that have worked for them as we have the conversation with our panelists. So without further ado, hopefully everyone is ready, got your water, your snack, whatever you need to now enjoy our virtual panels. I'm going to turn it over to Quincy to introduce our panelists.
Hey, thanks, Lori. Thanks, Lori. Now, I'm excited to be here. I rushed home from work to get here because I know these panelists personally, and I wanted to get this information. But I'm going to give a quick intro for everyone. First, we're going to start with Carolyn Evans. She might look familiar, as we've seen her as president of the NCPMI group. Carolyn helps senior managers and senior leaders by bringing their vision to life while inspiring teams to deliver programs providing better healthcare to North Carolinians. She is a leader, inspired dreamer, visionary, and out-of-box entrepreneurial thinker, creative and full of ideas. With expertise in project management, methodology, and best practices, she is a maverick who is not afraid to show some grit when required. Next, we have Sonia Dini. Sonia is a creative and strategic program leader with 10 plus years of experience delivering enterprise-wide transformation across tech, finance, and open source environments. She's an expert at orchestrating large-scale cross-functional programs in fast-paced agile settings, uniting designers, technologists, and product managers and researchers around shared goals. Known for optimizing creative flows and building loyalty and retention programs and driving innovation at scale. She's passionate about advocating for inclusive design practices, cultivating team health, and aligning business outcomes with experience-driven strategies. She's an influential leader known for delivering inclusive, high-impact associate experiences that resonate. Next, we have Damien Perez, another familiar face within PMI. With over 2 decades of military experience and service, Damien has honed his skills in leadership, project management, operations management, and instructional delivery across diverse industries. He thrives in fast-paced, ever-changing work environments, utilizing his analytical and solution-oriented abilities to excel in the face of shifting demands and priorities. He is a fervent advocate for lifelong learning and professional development programs. He is committed to empowering others to reach their full potential. Last but not least, we have Dr. Adrian Mack. He's a social impact leader, culturally competent professional with a career spanning the technology industry, social change initiatives, higher education, and the national security sector. He focuses on leveraging technology for positive societal change, encompassing research and development, government funding, scaling startups, and national security applications. His professional experience spans proposal writing, business development, consulting, researching, teaching, and operations and strategy. Beyond technology, he's passionate about social change, civic engagement, and justice reform, which are deeply rooted in his academic training and current interests.
Thank you, Quincy, for introducing our panelists. I'm going to stop sharing and kick it over to you to ask the questions. And for those that have joined recently, we will have a live Q&A session at the end of the panelists being asked questions. So hold your questions then and we'll get to them. So I'll stop sharing and over to you, Quincy.
All right. Thanks, Lori. Okay, question one. I'm going to start with it's a question for the group. We're going to start talking about leadership, style, and philosophy. So I'm going to put this out there for anyone who wants to answer. How would you define your leadership style?
Yeah, I can get started.
Thank you.
So I definitely see my leadership style as transformational, and I really do believe in the servant leadership approach. So I really like to kind of motivate and inspire people, have kind of that vision and have everyone on board and able to take ownership and grow with whatever initiative or project or kind of whatever it is we're working on. So really seeing the humanity in individuals and trying to inspire and be a very enthusiastic and caring leader.
Yeah, good point. Servant leadership, definitely one of the buzzwords that's thrown around a lot. But I always wondered, do people really honestly look at servant leadership and think about what it really means, right? Be a servant leader. That's a hard job. It's a hard job. Anyone else?
Hey, Quincy, I can go ahead and talk a little bit about my past and experience with leadership. I would say, based upon my military background, I'm lucky enough to have failed enough to become the leader that I am now, because it definitely took a while to kind of hone my style. And my style is more leading from the front, in which I would never ask my people to do anything. I wouldn't be willing to jump in and do myself or do alongside of you. And be honest, it took a while. Leadership is that art of persuasion and influence that sometimes it takes a while to kind of get that groove and get that experience.
Yeah, thanks, Damien. You said fail fast. That's another one of those words I hear from time to time, and it's thrown out there. And I always say, do you really mean failing fast? And as a leader, do people feel comfortable failing fast around you? I've been in a situation where I've asked some senior leaders that, do people really feel comfortable failing around you? Can they bring information to you? And I had conversations with some leaders to say, you may say that, but people don't think that around you. And I know because they tell me. Now I had the courage to tell you, so don't get rid of me for saying it. But
isn't that the key though? The courage and the trust that you build within your team, that they can kind of tell you these things as well.
Exactly. Anyone have an experience about failing fast and that sort of thing? No, I'm going from a little bit of a tangent, but I wanted to open up and talk about that if you guys want to. Any failing fast experience to share as leaders?
Hi, my name is Calnesia Gregg. I have a feeling fast experience. Is when I'm also in the military, and the military have a tendency to change their systems a lot. So when welcome, sir. So I'm gonna speak on evaluations. There was a legacy evaluation system that we did at headquarters. I'll just call it headquarters for the non-military, and it was revamped. So the revamped system was called My Eval, and that system you had to learn because it did not work the first round, the second round. So you kind of can't train your people unless you know what you're doing. So it's kind of, we had to learn together, and I had to do a lot of training and just like patience is a virtue, and just just showing them that we're gonna make it type of attitude, positivity to keep morale up. And we got through it, but it was a challenge. So it's just that you got to believe in yourself, and you got to just learn, do your research to teach others. So I mean, because they expect you to know because you are the leader. So yeah. Thanks.
I totally hear what you're saying there. Part of, from a leadership role is, and my style being more on the servant leadership side, democratic, but I also like to think of myself as being transformational. So it's a conglomerate of all the different areas, but the failing fast and aspect of that is, as a leader, that's one of the things that I found was that making a decision is better than no decision. And that's when making that decision, it may not be the best one. So you have to be able to acknowledge and to fail fast and pivot and find, and that's where you can lean on with your different styles that you incorporate into your leadership style, is how do you manage that? Because not making a decision just stagnates, and the team is looking for that direction in many cases.
Yeah, I'll chime in there, Carolyn, and I'll pivot a little and say that one of the things in recent years that I've learned to do was collaborate more. And what I mean by that is I've gotten into a habit in working within teams where we're far more collaborative and we don't do a whole lot of work before we've connected. And so I think when we talk about failing fast, there's also kind of engagement along the way so that we are aligned that reduces failure as well.
That's a good point. Failing fast, collaboration. Let me pull on that string a little bit too. I wonder, does the collaboration that you're speaking about, Ms. Matheny, the fact that we used to be face to face a lot. We used to talk. We used to have the water cooler conversations, and now it's video or Teams or Zoom. And at one point, at least in my experience, people seemed to run towards that. It was cool. It was funny. Everybody wanted to be on camera, and then after a period of time, people stopped wanting to be on camera. So now I find the opposite. So I wonder, is it harder to collaborate now or easier? We have more tools, but are we collaborating more?
Yeah. So as soon as you said that, I thought about the tools. I thought about how I create a slide deck, and typically I would be done with it and present that to the team when I get to a place where I feel like I'm ready to share. That is no longer the story in the work environment that I'm in. The moment I create that deck, it gets shared with everyone. And all of a sudden in that document, you see everybody typing and adding and adjusting and commenting, and it's happening. And I'm just like, wait, I didn't get, I think personally, sometimes I would feel like that's my idea. I was already going to say that, but a lot of those concepts, when you go into the tools and collaborate more, if you use them as design, then you find that it all comes together in more of a team format. So I hear you with the video side. I think there is a real video fatigue is a real thing, but I think tapping into those tools and allowing us to kind of pace ourselves and contribute directly into whatever, be it a slide or documentation, or could be a mural board where the team is adding their thoughts and brainstorming. But that's where I lean into the tools.
Good point. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any other comments about leadership style?
Hey, Quincy, I wanted to throw it out there. You mentioned too, and I think another good one is that perceived expert as a leader, being that expectation that you should be the expert. There was many times I've had transitions where I've gone from one unit to another, and my background is aviation, so I'd be in one airframe and I would be the expert in that. Be it transferred to another station, I would still be a leader rank wise. But as far as my expertise in the airframe wasn't quite at the level that the others were there. But I think in my opinion, you don't actually have to be an expert in the product or the service per se, because you still bring that experience of leadership from one to the other, the dealing with people, that persuasiveness and stuff. So I was still able to pull the team together and do things, even though I wasn't the expert. But then you also still got to jump in and say, I'm willing to kind of learn and jump in and get your hands dirty as well.
Yeah, good point. Anyone else have any challenges with the idea of going into something new, not being the expert, especially as PMs, right? Going into something I don't know if it's a cultural thing, organization, or what, but I have seen situations where you come in and an engineer wants you to be the expert in their job. And I'm like, that's your job. I don't know your job. You do it, right? But then there are other times, I guess, where they want you to be a generalist and know about the entire organization, how it works, to come to you to kind of put it together. Have you all had that similar type of experiences of different roles in different places that are similar to that?
I think part of being a leader is needing to be vulnerable. And to, as Damien was saying, sometimes you are not an expert. There can be also that level of expectation. And part of being a leader is sharing your vision, sharing your thoughts, but also being open and listening to your people and showing them your own vulnerability and saying, I don't know everything. And that's where that, Sonia, we were mentioning about collaboration and being able to pull your people in, is that it also rises those people up. It raises them up, gives them a sense of community. It provides also an opportunity for other people to shine. And I think that's a big part of being a strong leader, is to get your people to shine.
Carolyn, you raised a fantastic point. As a leader, being vulnerable. We talked about failing fast, right? I recall a situation in my career years and years ago. I was in a meeting with a customer. I had a senior person with me. I was a junior engineer at the time, and the customer had a question, and I told that customer, I said, I don't have an answer for that, but let me research it and get back with you, so we'll find you the answer. And the customer was okay with that. We left the call, and the senior guy told me, "You never ever say that in front of a customer." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You should never say you don't know." And I said, I would rather be honest with the customer because they appreciate the honesty, and I disagree with you. I said, if you're trying to be fake and phony, people see through it, and people don't like to see that. And so we had to agree to disagree. But when I realized it was a big cultural difference between myself and that individual, where there was probably a 25-year difference in age,
Mm-hmm.
And we could not come to agreement on the approach. I thought my servant leadership type approach was better. He said, "No way, you never ever do that." And I had the courage at the time to say, "Hey, we're going to have to agree to disagree. I think you're wrong." And he did not like it at all. So how do you get the courage to do that? And when, I guess maybe that changed over time. I'm not sure when it changed, but I've seen both. What have you guys experienced and ladies experienced as far as being a leader, being vulnerable, taking that chance, and not knowing it all, and being able to have the courage to say it?
Yeah, I think that is what actually develops your team into becoming leaders or taking ownership, is if you're modeling, to your point, I don't know, I need to figure this out. And being intentional and very having kind of those steps to get to that answer or something like that. I think when your team sees that you're willing to do that, whether it's in a team meeting in front of customers, but also if you allow others to do that on your team and you don't, penalize them, or if you're welcoming that feedback, I feel like that's often where folks say, I was able to ask a question, I was able to disagree. This person's the leader, but they asked who disagrees, or are there other opinions? I think that culturally sets the tone of, hey, I'm able to be vulnerable or ask questions here. And it's encouraged by those that are, a manager or a leader or so forth. So I think it definitely starts with you modeling that, whether you're wrong or you don't know or something like that, but then also just pulling that out of others and encouraging it. And when people see that they're not punished, or, there's no retaliation or things like that, it just continues to grow that cultural dynamic.
And that all important trust aspect of following up and getting the answer, right? So developing that trust and that you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
You were in a difficult situation, Quincy, with it being a leader or a manager who is telling you, no, you shouldn't do that. And you're absolutely correct. It's how people perceive things and how they approach things is very generational. And from a culture perspective, coming from an older generation, is, you have to have the subject matter expertise in order to manage. Where we're taught as project managers, if you know a process and you know the basic principles of project management, you can apply those principles and you don't have to have that subject matter expertise. So one of the things that I had to learn is for myself is to feel comfortable in my own skin as a leader, to be able to feel confident enough in knowing what how I'm delivering something or how I'm approaching a situation is based upon the assessment, at least the initial assessment that I make, and being able to feel confident enough to stand by that, but also acknowledging that other person's feedback. And that's when I started changing things around and saying yes. So when I would hit situations with leadership or with people who didn't agree, might have something else, I'll start off with the word yes and reframe. Instead of saying, no, I don't agree with you. Yes, you have a good point. This is the way I handled it. And I'm still practicing as I go and learning to say yes beforehand and taking a beat before I respond to no, that's, we'll agree to disagree, because that sometimes sets off a trigger for people as well.
Right. Yes, that's a good segue to the next question. Since you mentioned it, what values guide your decision making as a leader? Anyone?
All right, I'll speak up on this one. So one of the things that and again, when I say recent times, because I really do feel like I hit a point where I was like, aha, like really having some realizations about myself and style and all those things. And I did a coaching certification, and it kind of rocked my world. And what I mean is that traditionally, if you all remember the Myers-Briggs, I was ENTJ. So I was quick in all those things, and I'll just leave that there. So that is extrovert, intuitive, thinking, and judging. And so when I make a quick decision, it's fast. I'm very definitive in how I approach things and people. So from that standpoint, when I took the coaching certification, I started to value that greatly because it taught me a new way of listening. And when I started coaching and listening very close, I love to say that I started hearing the things that people weren't saying. And so that is just something I value greatly, is to really listen and also understand that there are other perspectives. And again, I'm speaking to myself, because when I got an idea and I felt like I was right, I would be ready to debate or stand by that idea. And what I learned by listening was, wow, I can actually understand and hear this very different perspective. And I now know how to integrate or listen more for those thoughts from the team and figure out how to have a conversation and balance that out.
Wow. Really, really good points. Thank you, Sonia. Like anyone else? I made a note. I'm gonna come back to it. That you said something we didn't talk about. You just made me think about something that's not on the list. I gotta add. That was
Rick said God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Amen to that. Anyone else want to share a value that you may use to your decision as a leader?
Yeah, I think for me, it really is like empathy, kind of trying to see the humanity in everyone that I'm dealing with. I think to Sonia's point, that we're working with a diverse, kind of globalized, and in many cases workforce, and sometimes people have lived experiences or certain ways of doing things, and sometimes it's easy to judge or question or compartmentalize or put people in a box or things like that. And while conflict is natural part of life, and it's healthy in many ways when you approach it from what we just mentioned, asking questions and having those kind of positive debates, I think sometimes as leaders, if we aren't seeing the humanity in others, if we're focused on our own egos, if it's starting to get to a level where it becomes petty and you're like tearing people down just for the sake of having those differences versus what's the problem we're trying to solve and things like that. I think I always have to step back and ask myself, is how I'm viewing this person or this issue, taking into account what this person might be thinking or what they've gone through or their experiences, or is it simply that I'm just not wanting to hear it or something along those lines? So I think I always try to step back. I mean, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I make those mistakes at times too, to still want to judge others or things like that. But I think when I take a step back and truly try to be empathetic, it's always usually led to a better or positive outcome.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Max. So empathy. I tell you, that sounds so touchy-feely. We're PMs, we can't be touchy-feely like that, right? I want the facts and the dates. You're trying to tell me I need soft skills as a PM. Is that what you're saying? Anyone else want to share values to guide decisions? If not, I got a question that wasn't even on my list based on what Sonia said, but I'll give you all a chance. Anyone else want to comment on values?
I have to agree that with Dr. Mack here, that empathy is a huge driver. One of the things that really resonated with me through the DEI revelation and through the process of learning was and through the pandemic, when that is, to me, when I truly realized the importance of empathy, understanding that everyone has a story. And when you go into conflict, when you go into situations, that with that empathy, you think about, walking in their shoes and the importance of knowing that yours is not the only opinion, and that there could be a reason for the way that people behave, the way that people respond to questions. It's because of where they're coming from, and you may not know all the details. And if you give people that space and that empathy, then it seems to often diffuse situations, because you can understand that there's many things that come into a situation that you have to take into consideration. And as a project manager who was from the very start saying, no, you have to be calm, you have to be, that's what they look for in a project manager, then I'm a project management mistake, because that's what makes me and gives me my strength, is the empathy, is that word love, the animation. And because I think that even though, some of your strengths can also be your weaknesses, I think that when you come from the heart, or at least for me, coming from the heart with pure intent, is that you're approaching things more, at least for me, was approaching things more in a servant leadership role.
Carolyn, you just made me think about something. When we were going through COVID, right? Two things I noticed. One, people had a longing to see each other, so people wanted to be on camera and wanted to be talking, right? And at the same time, I was always the person that would jump in. Here's the meeting. Here's our notes. Rush for time. You got to meeting 1, meeting 2, meeting 3. And I was very focused, intentional doing it, and I didn't allow time for much small talk. I think it's because I was paid by the hour, right? It was global service, so time was money. But I did realize that, especially going through COVID and meeting with team members, giving people a few minutes to say hello, to see a smiling face, I realized to some people that work was their social, right? That was where that was the social outlet for them. And I remember people wanting to be on calls and wanting to talk. And unfortunately, I think because there's no traumatic experience that we're all sharing right now, that we're kind of moving away from that now. right? Where people are going back to what they're used to and not the longing. And, you know, some people are still doing it, like, you know, but because I realized I did enjoy that and I needed that. And it kind of added emotional intelligence to what we're doing, right, for these projects. So I kind of missed that. So some portion of that's going away. But yeah, thanks for sharing that vulnerability. Now, I want to go back to something Sonia said, and Carolyn, you kind of hit on this too. When did, this is for everybody, when did you feel like I have this PM thing down? You know, it's people talked about it, but I think I got a deeper understanding. I like this, and I'm going to be successful at it. I know what I'm doing. When did you get to that point in your career you said, I feel like it? Was it a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in? You know, for Damien, 15 years in. Just joking. It's the gray. That's why I said that. But to the group, when did you feel like you had it? And this is a career for me. And not only do I like it, I will be successful at it. What was your duration? You know.
I can jump out since you called me out on that, because it was funny enough. I was actually retired when I got into project management. I had gotten out of the Air Force, was looking to see what the next chapter was going to bring. Was going to graduate school. They said, we've got this degree in project management. Would you like to be in it? I said, never heard of it. Don't want to do it. Let me go into operations management. But I'll give project management a try and take a few courses. And once I started getting into those courses, realizing I've been doing project management my whole career, and then was able to speak the language now and interpret what I was doing, and then brought that with me, because that gave me the confidence to now bring that with me, get my certification, and then bring that with me into my current role in the charter school world, where I bring project-based learning. So yeah, it took me a little bit to have that click.
Nice. Thanks, Damien. See, I knew it. That's why I called you out.
Hi, this is Calnesia Greg again. So, Mr. Perez, I agree with you. I'm actually still in the military. So I got into project management to kind of like go right into it after I retire. But I'm yet to be on a project to get a feel for it. And I have my certification since I think 2021. So I think so at this moment, all I do is just do the activities and go to the meetings. But I think when I actually get into a project management project, that it'll be fulfilling, and I'll pursue, and I'll feel like, all right, I got this. Because you're right. In the military, we have so many projects that we manage. And so I think that when I actually get in an actual project outside the military, that then I'll just, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah, once you realize you've got the skill set, you've got the experience, you just got to tie it into what the industry is saying out there in what we'll call the real world, and you've got that. And once you start talking that language, you're going to see it's just going to come natural to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as far as you asked the question about when was the time that it clicked in your head,
Right.
Hey, I'm skilled in this area, that I don't know that it still has clicked in my head 20 plus years later from getting my certification. I believe that I don't even look at it as project manager as a title. I look at it as a skill set. And often those skills are already being honed as children and activities that we're doing, because a project has a beginning and an end. Mm. And the beauty of what I see is that we get to practice that every single day in activities that we're doing. I believe that depending upon the industry, as Damien, you were saying, that is one of the things. Every time I go into a new area of healthcare, or I was working in operations or in finance and different areas, I was able to use that transferable skill set, that project management skill set, to be able to make that leap and to make that change and to make it a little easier, including levels of managing people, from being a people leader and having people reporting to you. That is something that having that transferable skill set of these project management skills really helps to enhance that experience and helps you to hone in on, you know, what's important and prioritize and to get things done.
Yeah, I'll speak quickly on this. First off, and I hope Miss Gregg, Calnesia, how do I pronounce your name?
That is correct,
I
Calnesia
said it
Gray.
right. Dang
I was
it, I
wondering
would've
too. I was going to do that
Yes.
next. You're in my
Yes.
head.
I was sounding it out in my mind. Listen, I'm gonna challenge you. All right. Like I want us to have like, you know, look me up on LinkedIn. I want to spend at least 30 minutes to prove to you that you have project management skills. You don't have to wait until you're done with the military. I promise that we can have enough conversation to draw out and really connect the dots in regard to the skills you already have and projects that you're either doing or have done already. Like, and so what I'll say and use that as a segue because, and this is uncomfortable, but I'm gonna say it. I think I thought I was a PM before I was a PM. So I didn't like, if anything, and I'll be fully transparent too. I didn't pass the exam the first time I took it. So I was kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I know I'm a PM. So why is this not aligning with my first exam? So
Right.
it was kind of challenging to really come to terms. And I really had to push myself to come back for the second round. And yes, again, I took the test twice, passed it that time. And it was a point of validation for me. And so I do, but I just want to emphasize that long before, even when really sinking into my career, I've started to see, even if I think about college, and I'm in a sorority. So they gave me a name, Miss 411. They said, oh my gosh, she likes finding things. She's so resourceful. And what was happening is that we were just busy creating, we were always creating something. And I loved
Right.
turning nothing into something. And that just continued to expand into the corporate space now, but it was there. So I just have a different view where, okay, yes, I had to come to terms and I had to kind of fight for it as well.
Okay. Sonia, are
Nice.
you looking at my notes?
No.
Okay.
Well, I
Because-
accept the
Am I-
challenge. Miss Sonia, I accept your challenge.
Okay, perfect.
Well, two things. One, you can't mention sorority and not say what sorority it is. So go ahead and say it.
I'm a Zeta. I'm a Zeta.
Okay. Z5B. And the second thing is, as if you were looking at my notes, because you went right into a question I had here. I was going to call out Kinesia and say, okay, Kinesia, you've had two questions. You said you don't feel like you're a PM. Damien pumped you up as a fellow military veteran.
He did.
And without me saying it, Sonia already jumped on it, because what I was going to say is Calnesia, and I'm going to throw it to Sonia. Well, Sonia's already answered it, but the question was, how do you inspire and motivate others? And I was going to put it out there for the panel, but Sonia jumped on my question and answered it before, so she's already answered it. Thank you very much, C5B. Does anyone else? Because I was thinking from a project standpoint, how do you motivate your team and others? But Kinesia just said it. We need to inspire her right now on this call. So I'm putting a challenge up to you. How do you inspire your teams and your projects? How do you inspire others? And how can we inspire Kinesia right now? Anyone else want to call me out, Kinesia?
I see.
So that's the last time I've joined this call, these PM people.
Well, I don't want to give you a sales pitch, but what I can tell you is that in 2004, when I finished my certification, I had, like you, Sonia, I had gotten pulled into projects. I didn't understand really what the role project manager was. My involvement with the NCPMI chapter really helped me to focus. And one of the first projects I took on was the director of the annual conference. And Sonia has also served in that role. And that is a big undertaking. It's 9 months long. And it really flexes all aspects of who you are as a project manager, from time management to budget management to quality management and emotional intelligence, patience, conflict resolution, stakeholder engagement. So being involved with your local chapter and tapping into some of the activities and volunteer opportunities that are there is a great way to hone in some of those skills. And that's one of the areas that I would strongly recommend is getting involved in the chapter in a leadership role so that you can experience some of those opportunities to actually run projects, such as our professional development day we call an annual conference is a perfect example of what you would need to do. We are also looking, and PMI is encouraging that as we do outreach and we do have more involvement with the nonprofit organizations. And they're encouraging chapters to go out and work with nonprofits on projects that they have a need for. And that is an excellent way is to volunteer your time in a nonprofit organization and to help them with a project that they have at hand. And that's something that moving forward, our chapter is going to probably get more involved with, is working with actually doing outreach and delivering projects. So get involved in the chapter, volunteer, and the best part is it's a safety zone. It's a volunteer role. It's an opportunity to surround yourself with other people who may be more experienced, people that you can work with, and to hone those skills that you're looking for. So if you're not getting it in your current position, then build yourself a position.
Well, thank you.
Alnicia, what now? What next?
So I just moved to North Carolina like 2 months ago. I was in the Alabama chapter. I'm from Alabama. So I will get more involved. I'm new to the area, so I definitely will get more involved. My thing is resume workshops. I did resume workshop at community. I usually go into the low income community and set up at a YMCA where there's computers and help them build workshops and bring in employers and unemployed. And that was part of my community service. And I also did I'll feed the Meals on Wheels where you drive around on Mondays and feed the disability and the elderly. So that was part of my helping the community, but I was always the helper. I was never leading in the leading role, but I'm always a team player and a helper. So, I mean, I lead at work and I help the community. So,
Sounds like a project to
but I'm
me.
definitely
An opportunity.
yes, I'm definitely looking forward to being involved with this chapter. So,
All right. Good. Thank you. Anyone else have any advice? If not,
Hi, everyone. I'm Beverly, and so I just want to share that I never knew for 10 years plus, that I was working on projects for the longest time. The word project in itself was always intimidating, sort of. I thought that was like business lingo reserved for boardrooms and, very important business meetings. Never really thought that I was actually doing a lot of project work for years. And that just goes back to even when I was just as a team player, like a member of a team and not a leader. And then I became a leader. And even so, my leadership was not, I feel like they did me a disservice because, and that also ties into the aspect of your leadership style, philosophy. They did me a disservice because I think I was saying a lot of project management terms, not knowing it was actually project management. So I would relay what needs to be done or what needs to be worked on within the organization or the business. But because I did not know that project management itself was a whole industry, was a whole skill set, was a whole tool, I would relay and they would acknowledge. And then after some time, my husband, who's a veteran, and I'm a veteran spouse, and that's how I land to be, working on certain projects within the military community here in North Carolina, said to me, because he's doing engineering, said to me, I'm studying something right now and it has project management in it. And from all the work that you've done, it seems that that's what you've been doing. Why don't you take on project management? And I was
Nice.
like, oh, okay. I started looking into the industry, and everything just sort of tied in. And when I joined, the institute, when I joined NCPMI, I started feeling heard. I started feeling seen,
Right.
and then I started belonging. And so all that work that I'd been doing, all that experience, started sort of tying in and making it make sense. So I would also encourage anyone on this platform who's still trying to get a feeler of what project management is and how to fit in to the project management world and how to actually serve as a leader. I would say go for it. I'm still also trying to find my feet. So very open to working with anyone who has a project or who's working on a project. Happy to jump in and get my hands dirty. I'm also trying to get my project management certification. I'm in the study process of it. So yeah, it's intimidating, but I feel like I belong. So, yeah.
That was my next question. I was going to ask if you were, not to throw a sales pitch, but I was going to ask you if you're working towards it. And I'll tell you a secret. When I started doing research on this a long time ago, I was working with a software team, and they used the term, that software team used the term GC. And I thought, GC, what in the world is that? And the GC was general contractor. And I thought, well, that's dumb. Why are you using general contractor? We're doing software projects. Well, as I started digging into it, I found out that PMI and the PMP, just like everything else within software, we steal. So we stole that from construction, right? So PMI and PMP, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding it kind of started from the construction world, and we took that over. Hence the reason we had GCs and project plans and all that. And it was waterfall based because it was based on building, construction in that industry. And we took it and we claimed it, and now it's ours. So software people use it. So Beverly, you're using the terminology that we stole from contractors that were building houses and homes and buildings. So it's free for everybody to take. So you know the lingo, you know the words. It's just putting together and using it in the context of doing software or hardware development. And tell me if I'm thinking anything there, but that's what I remember, and having that gee whiz moment when I realized that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good discussion. Now I'm going to move to a second group of questions I had that were under challenges and growth. And who said it earlier? I think it was Carolyn. You said it. Someone else said it. Maybe Sonia as well, about having a safe space. So we're going to test that theory out. This is for the entire group. What's the most difficult leadership challenge you faced, and how did you handle it? Anyone?
I'm going to be vulnerable here. I'm serving as a president of the chapter, one of the 15 largest chapters in the world. And this experience as being president has probably been the most challenging experience I've had in my career. And one of the challenges I currently have is in building the board is a psychological safety zone. And that psychological safety zone is building trust, where people feel comfortable in sharing, but sharing respectfully, sharing with empathy, sharing with kindness. And I'm still working through that, establishing that psychological safety zone within our board. And it's something that is ongoing. And as a leader, especially a leader of a large organization, a volunteer organization, this is not people's jobs. This is a 100% volunteer organization. People join for multiple reasons, but if anything else, if it's not fun, it's not their day job, they're not going to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
So providing an environment that meets the needs of the people that you're serving, providing the safety and trust within a group to be able to say, hey, I need life work balance. This is my volunteer job. I can't give you more than 20 hours a week. I think right now that is probably my greatest challenge, is working with this volunteer organization and establishing that trust, and establishing those based on trust, is that respect and that kindness and the empathy within the group of people who have very busy lives, who are all individual leaders and in their own rights. They're top contributors in their own organizations. They're coming together in this volunteer role. So I continue in that. That's probably my biggest struggle right now.
It's interesting you say that, right? It's a volunteer organization versus a standard corporation is a much different beast, right?
Absolutely.
You didn't mention Blue Cross or Blue Shield at all. Oh, that's the easy part. But I'm going to call you out, Dr. Mack. I see you down there. You were thinking. I saw your eyes go up and to the left. I say he is thinking about something. He has it on the tip of his tongue. So I'm going to repeat the question. You can defer and pass to someone else if you want. But again, what's the most difficult leadership challenge you face, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, so I think Carolyn, when you mentioned boards, this is thinking about more of your for-profit board. When you were mentioning that, that's what you saw me pondering about. But I would say, for me, it's the stakeholder engagement piece of being in like a leadership position, and when it comes to definitely your team, of course you're reporting to the board. Oftentimes that's your manager if you're the CEO or something along those lines. So in one sense, you want to make sure that you're doing what needs to be done to see the success of the company, but then you're thinking about your team, customers, and so forth. And so I think for me, it's always when there's information or there's challenges that you're trying to filter or share in stages to the team, it's always thinking about kind of the livelihood of those that you're leading. So I think for me, it's that piece of, I want to make sure that people see that I'm trying to do what's best for them. But I know sometimes when you're in a leadership role, teams will say this person really doesn't care about me. They're looking at the bottom line, or they're looking at the board, or they're looking at their own title or success. And so I think it's just always that trying to be genuine, trying to really show the team, whether it's a layoff or there's a pivot or some type of major challenge or change, I truly do care about your success and want to see you, thrive. And so I think it's just always that, how do you stay true to yourself, but also your team? How do you make sure you're just really trying to embrace the different stakeholders that you're dealing with, but in a way that doesn't lead you away from your moral compass as well. You don't want to lie and cheat. You don't want to do things to please one stakeholder group or another just for the sake of your own reputation and things like that, because it will come back to catch up with you at some point. So I say all that to say, I think it's just really there's always that stakeholder component of I have to navigate these different groups, but how do I keep the communication and my intentions and everything that I'm doing genuine and wholesome in a way that still can help the business, help the team, and everyone like that. So that, I may have gone in a large circle there with just rambling, but I think that's really what I've always thought about, and usually it always comes back to people when there's some type of challenge. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I knew you were pondering that, and I know you I know you personally. I know you've written about this as well. So thanks for sharing that. And if that builds curiosity, if anybody wants to know, ask Dr. Mack what he's written and what he's written about, and he'll tell you more about it. That's my shameless plug. All right. Does anyone else want to share an experience about the most difficult leadership challenge you faced, or how you handled it? Sonia, Damien?
Yeah, So it seems appropriate and kind of what we were talking about. But my biggest was the transition going from military into the civilian world. And funny enough, with what Dr. Mack and Carolyn were saying too, is it's also stakeholders and volunteers. So for me, getting out of the military as I was going to graduate school, discovering project management, I kind of got into volunteering at local charter schools and just helping out. I became the PTO president, the PTO mom of that organization, and I was asked by the administrators at the time to kind of run some projects, get things in order. And to me, it was exciting jumping in, and I'm ready to charge that hill and realize that the team I was bringing wasn't following me, because in my mind, I'm military. Hey, here's the mission. This is what we got to do. Let's go knock it out. And it just didn't work that way. You don't, a lot of those kind of things didn't transition. I had to really work on my soft skills, had to really work on my overall tone and aggressiveness, I guess you can say, is making sure everyone is kind of ready to come and let's tackle what the problem is or talk about the solutions. But that was a big transition for me, is just communication style, especially in a volunteer organization, because you want to talk about needing some persuasive skills, that you're going to develop it working in a volunteer organization. So I think that was the best experiences I can gain, and what has helped me now, being in the educational industry. But yeah, that was a challenge. It took a little bit to kind of get over that.
Yeah. Thanks, Xavier. Sonia, you have anything to add? No, I got a question for you. I'm thinking about you. I got one for you next. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I didn't hear it stated, so I'm just going to call out that the recurring challenge that I face is right when we get to a sweet spot with the team. I've worked through all the kinks. I've gone through some hard times, and we level out, and we're working, and we're functioning, and it feels good. My team, somebody gets snatched. I lose a resource. I lose some budget. Reality hits, or and one of the things that, in terms of navigating that, I really take it to heart that there are two compliments that I love to share because it's the best feedback I feel I've ever gotten, which is that I influence without power. And that people say, I want to be on your team. And then the other one is that it's become a strength to really manage ambiguity. All that, to actually continue to work and get creative about how we push forward without everything being in place. Maybe the money's not quite there. Maybe all the resources aren't lined up. That is an ongoing challenge. And so I know you said the biggest, but my goodness, I'm always dealing with that throughout the year.
It's so funny you mentioned that. You reminded me of the whole idea. I knew you were going to say that. So it's like your team does great, and everyone says, "Wow, this team is like an A team." Fantastic. I'm dating myself. The A team, they were really, really good. And then someone says, "Wow, what do they do to be successful?" And they pull your team apart and move other places because you're so good, which now they just disrupted the fantastic team. And yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and this is a good segue too, because and I'm gonna start with you, Sonia, since you already have the mic, and also Damien next, because you guys are not polar opposites, but you have different backgrounds. So I'm interested in how are you guys going to approach this? And here's the question: how do you approach conflict resolution within your team? And Sonia, I'll let you go first, and then Damien, others can jump in. But since you guys have such a varied background, I'm interested to see how you answer this question. So Sonia, yeah, how do you approach conflict resolution within your team?
So I think coming back to the coaching, and once I became a coach and understood that I really needed to, very, very carefully. Who wrote that? Thanks, Rick. Yeah, that's my answer as well. Once I realized I needed to listen more, I actually do enjoy really trying to get down to what's really going on here. And I'm also Damien, which we have in common. You said much earlier, about, hey, I need you to know I got your back. I'll sit down here with you. We're up against a deadline. I'll sit here, work through it with you. I'm that person who let's stay, like, I'll stay up. I'll, hang out. If you're global, I'll get on that night. And so, essentially, that is how I work through it. And so if it's among the team, right, then I want to understand what the real issue, like, let's get down to the core of what needs to be resolved. I like removing blockers. So I'll pause there. Damien?
Charge the hill. Just get it done, right, Damien?
charge the hill. Just make sure you got people following you, so you're not doing it yourself. Yeah, I think that is ultimately it. I mean, a lot of conflict may come down to communication from what I've experienced is so just understanding exactly what it is we're looking at, what it is we're dealing with, but being transparent, I think, is the most important thing, and then taking that time to establish that trust. A lot of communication comes out, whether it's text from teams, whether it's emails, text messages, on chats, or any of this. And what you want is the trust that you're not interpreting things in the negative way, that you want to truly believe that team players are really there to build each other up, not assuming the negative, and really just kind of embracing and supporting each other. So if you come at it from that way, let's solve the conflict, focusing on what the actual problem is, and then move from there.
Well, Damien, I'm in Calnicia's head right now, and she's thinking to herself, is conflict resolution different in corporate versus military, or is it similar? Right, Calnicia, is that what you were thinking?
See,
I was kind of thinking that.
I will tell you, so the one biggest caveat out there, and I've admitted this even in the education industry as a leader there, is in the military, you always had that fallback. You had the UCMJ. It was you could ultimately give an order and say, this is what we're going to do. That's it. Let's press on.
UCMJ?
Uniform Code of Military Justice. So by military law, you have to do what I say as long as it's a lawful legal order, that kind of thing. So you can basically say, all right, discussion's over. This is what you're going to do. Let's go do it. But you're also taught in military leadership that by using that, you've already kind of lost, because you want to weigh on your other authoritative skills, your persuasiveness and everything else. That's your catch all, or if it's your time deadline, I don't have time to explain it, we're just going to do it. But in the civilian world, you don't have that to fall back on, especially in the volunteer world. You can't just say, I'm going to order you to do it, as I've learned. So it does look different, but I will tell you, you can still take that leadership training that you have gotten in the military, adapt it into the civilian world. It still does help because you've got that accountability, that effectiveness, and that mission focus that is much needed in the industry world, in the real world.
Carolyn, I see you thinking. What happens when you can't hug it out? What do you do?
He said, hug it out.
That is a big one. I think that in managing conflict, the one biggest for me was learning emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And knowing myself better and I've always been, since a child, is I always look at, what did I do wrong? What did I contribute to this conflict? And I think that's one of the first things in conflict resolution is looking, using emotional intelligence and divorcing the emotion from the conflict. And I think that is hard for everybody to do when sometimes things get really heated. But trying to divorce the emotion from it, if it's a situation that it needs to be resolved, and getting to a common ground where you could take a look at something and reflect and look at it is more of an analytical perspective. And this is what I do. This is just what works for me is I often take back, I step back, and it's just a style. I am one of those people in my personality. If I reach conflict, is I put a pause and I have to step back and reflect. But I found that what Damien was talking about is transparency. I have learned through taking emotional intelligence classes is that sometimes people don't know what you're thinking in your head. So you have to tell them, and wherever the conflict is, I'm going to take a step back, and this is why I need to think about this, or I need to look at this in a different way, or assess how I can come at this from a non-emotional standpoint. So for me, that has worked, but I had to get to the point to let people know what was going on in my head, because what you see on my face, which is always very expressive, is not necessarily what's going on in my head. But sometimes, taking some time in the grace, asking people for grace to step back until you can diffuse the situation, to, get the emotion, bring it down to a manageable, more professional level, and then approach it with that understanding of, let's look at the facts. Let's look at, what are because, and sometimes conflict is good. It spurs ideas. It gives vision. There's a lot of great things about conflict. It really can be a positive driver. It doesn't have to be a negative driver. It just is a matter of how you approach it. And for me, it is part of that growth was letting people know, hey, this is in order for me to process and come to the table, not having, not coming fully loaded with a reactionary approach and more responsive. I have to step back.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm thinking, I hear de-escalate, de-escalate, de-escalate. That's what I hear, and I'm a firm believer of that as well. Dr. Mack, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think for me, if it's between, team members, or if it's just a larger issue, I usually look at not applying kind of a one size fits all approach. So I think what everyone else was saying, if it's two individuals or something like that, I might need to coach one and delegate to another, for example, really kind of understanding who they are, their skills, what the issue is. But I think it's also just being aware as a leader of your culture and climate. So sometimes there's just larger cultural issues that are also contributing to whatever it is. And so I think being observational, being really engaged and understanding your people. You won't know everything. I mean, we're human. Again, we can't do everything, but I think if you take the time to see, what are barriers that kind of are inherent in the organization, or what are some cultural dynamics? Sometimes you can kind of understand what's kind of going on behind the scenes. Issues of power. It's certain people. I think sometimes we think of, you're the leader, you have a certain title, but sometimes there's those people who hold power or who are leaders without having that title. And so if you know who those folks are, if you know kind of what underlying dynamics are at play, sometimes it helps you approach the entire team with kind of what Damien and others were saying with transparency and the emotional intelligence that Carolyn was mentioning. So I think just really trying to understand your culture and climate. And sometimes that's just soliciting that feedback again from others, because sometimes you're blind to the way that things are going because of what you've put in place. So sometimes you have to have folks that come to you and say, you may not be aware of this, but X, Y, and Z is happening. And again, they can't be penalized if they're approaching you in a way that's really trying to make positive change and things like that. So I think it's kind of all the above what everyone said, but definitely that cultural piece is huge with projects and team dynamics.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mack. You made me think about somebody had to keep me honest here. I had to put my PMP hat on. It was I can't remember the article, but we talked. It was power. We talked about the legitimate power, reverent power, expert power, and there's one other power I can't remember what it is. I was about to impress everyone, but I think there's 4 total, right?
Positional.
Positional
There's a
power.
positional power.
Ah, thank you, Lori. See, thank you so much. Good discussion. Good discussion. I'm going to call out. I need to get us to a seasoned individual, and I was thinking Carolyn, but Damien has the beard. It's all gray. So let's go to Damien first and let Carolyn clean it up once he once he gives his answer. How do you continue to grow and evolve as a leader, Damien? If you want to pass it to someone else, you can, like Carolyn, but it's up to you.
I would tell you that. So one of the things I just love doing, and it's kind of a hobby of mine, but it's also what allows me to continue to grow is it's just learning through professional development, whether it's participating in seminars. I love reading. We were just chatting about Colin Powell's book. It worked for me. Like I actually listened to that first chapter a couple of times, maybe a month, depending on how much motivation I need. But just constantly doing things like that, always looking for ways to learn, even if it's the same class. Sometimes I have to be in. There's always something new you can learn and take from it. Being a PMP, when I was doing the PMP instructor stuff, it was always learning something in there, but just that constant learning, and I think that's what kind of steered me to the education industry that I'm in now. Is it's just because I just love that atmosphere. I love learning things, and then I love passing them on.
Thanks, Amy. Carolyn, what do you think?
I totally agree with Damien. I'm a lifelong learner. You'll always catch me listening to a podcast. I have an hour drive to visit my partner, and in that hour I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to books on tape. I'm catching up on anything that I can get my hands on to listen. Even at lunchtime, I'm always engaging in something. But I'm also learning the importance of something that comes from the airlines is put your oxygen on first. The importance of you need to be settled in who you are and comfortable and healthy and in order for you to give your best in going forward. And that's something that I'm working on as well as I continue in my journey is just that. In order to help others, in order to be a good servant leader, I need to take care of myself. One, it's a good example to others, the importance of finding that I hate the phrase life work balance, because today everything is so intermingled, but it's finding what is at your core and who you are and nurturing that, because that then shines through. For me, that shines through as who you are as a leader. So lifelong learning, that's important, and making sure you put your mask on first and you take care of yourself.
Fantastic, Carolyn. It's funny when you said that. I thought about. I told this to a friend. I said this to a friend, and I say it from time to time. I said, and Kamenisi, this was for you. I always consider myself my number one project. So I'm project number one, right? and I've been working on this project for. Don't stop it, Lori. She's looking at it for a long time. So this project has been an ongoing project. Project you or Project Me. I used to joke around and say, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow to be better at whatever it is? Better at baking a cake, driving a car, PM, whatever it is. But how can I continuously improve? Me I'm the number one project. I've always thought about. I just thought about that, Carol, when you talked about the continuous learning and the growth. And what's that word? It's the PMP. Kaizen. Kaizen, continuous improvement, right? Sonia, Dr. Mack, anything you guys and lady want to add? How do you continue to grow and evolve as a leader?
Yeah, I think what everyone else has already said, but also just learning from my team. I think we just mentioned sometimes you don't know everything, and there are others in the room that you can learn from. So again, I think modeling that again shows the team that you're willing to learn and be in the situation or the project with them. But basically what everyone else said, definitely just a lifelong learner and taking advantage of whatever professional development opportunities or personal development opportunities align with my interests and goals.
Thank you. Sonia, anything you want to add?
I think that one was covered well. I have such similarity to what others have mentioned.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's talk about team and culture for a minute. Kind of a similar question, but tell us about a time when you had a successful project team, because I know it happens all the time, because you all are very successful PMs. What were the strategies or a strategy that you used to help lead the team in order to be a successful team? What did you do to encourage or lead them to success?
Yeah,
Anyway.
I just did a retro the other day, so I'm going to jump right into that one. And I don't know if I touched on this, but one of the things that came up in the retro, the team gave me feedback, and they said, we really like that you played to our strengths. And, like I had everyone say, what are you best at? Like, I know your title, I know your role, I know how you got assigned to this, but what gives you energy? What are you best at? And I really, as much as possible, try to align the assigned work with their strengths.
It's smart. So you had to have that personal relationship with each team member to know their skill set, to digest the work and to align.
Well, let me clarify that. It was a conversation. Some people had just met for the first time, so I had to trust that they were sharing and representing what they felt strongly about. So it was really just creating a safe space for dialogue to say, what do you want out of this? What do you want to get out of this? Like, yeah, yes, you're responsible for, but all right, someone else may, and I'll give you a real example. One person said, I really love looking at the data. And so while that wasn't what they were assigned to, they immediately chimed in to help the person who didn't had the assignment but didn't love it so much. Like, it allowed the team to start to say, I can talk to this person about this. We can work together. And so, no, we all didn't have history. It was just creating that space to really spend time together before jumping right into the work.
That's a very, very good point. That sounds like a really good retro. Anyone else? Anyone else want to share about the time you had a successful team, and the strategies you used to help them be successful?
Sure. I don't want to be the person who is doing all the talking. One of the things that Judy Umlis is a lady who formed the organization Grateful Leadership. And that was one of the things that I tried to bring into my work projects at Blue Cross, is showing appreciation for people's skills, appreciation for people's contributions, and that acknowledgement of whether it be their skill set, a kind word that they said or something that they pitched in, and that acknowledgement. And when you do that from a genuine space, not just saying thank you to say thank you, not just telling a person, that you appreciate them, but telling them specifically, I appreciate the fact that you're able to crunch those numbers to give us the detail that we're looking at. And without you, it would take X amount of time. Actually taking the time to be specific and what you appreciate about that person. And to me, that really helped. The other part, we talked about the retrospective. In no matter what the project is, having that opportunity that after you have a big win or a big loss, to kind of get into a safe space where people can talk about it and assessing, oh, I'll never do that again, or, oh, that really worked. I found that those opportunities to do that and taking that 15 to 20 minutes, if that's it, to be able to do that really helped to bring the dynamics and the teams that I have at work together much easier. And that's one of the things I try to incorporate is just that. Make sure I do that retrospective, that take a look at what's working well, what doesn't work well, and not play the blame game. So very first thing in my house rules for a project, we are not here to place blame. If something goes wrong, all of us need to pitch in and make sure that it works. And if we need to, we'll take a look at how we can do it better and have a session about that. So I found that to work very well in my projects.
Thank you very much, Carol, for sharing that. It's really good. No blame. No blame. Someone told me a long time ago, if you point a finger at someone, remember you have 4 fingers pointing back at yourself. Oh, sorry, 3. 3 fingers pointing back.
Well, hey, Quincy, I know we're almost out of time. Do you want to give a chance if there's anyone that has a question to ask our panelists before we wrap up?
Oh, man, that was fast. I'm glad you're keeping track of it, Lori. I had a couple more questions to ask.
I figured you did. That's why we're a team. Anyone have any questions for the panelists? If not, Quincy, any last words before we go to our closing remarks and announcements? Any last words for you?
Well, I just wanted to thank the panelists for making the time. I tell you, it's nice to have such a diverse group with various backgrounds together because you hear perspectives, and I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes for me so I can implement some of the stuff I've heard with my teams tomorrow at work. So I really appreciate you sharing, everyone, taking the time, especially as Carolyn mentioned, volunteer, paid, non-paid organization. So I really appreciate your time. I mean that sincerely.
Thank you so much, Quincy, and I echo all of his sentiments to our illustrious virtual panel. As we close out, I do want to give opportunity to Carolyn as our president to give any closing remarks she has, and after her, we've got Mike of Communities of Practice. Want to give the 2 of you an opportunity for any closing remarks.
I'd just like to say thank you to both you, Lori, and Quincy for pulling us together and to refreshing and bringing back our leadership community of practice. It's been a long time coming, and I'm just so excited to see what you have coming in the future. And if there is anything that, from a support perspective, that I can personally and or as a board that we can provide for this group to be successful, just let us know. We have a great chapter with lots of opportunities, and I really look forward to your new group.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Lori and Quincy for putting an excellent presentation. And thank you to the panelists, Damien, Sonia, Carolyn, and Adrian, for everything you've done. And I just want to say I look forward to the future with different panels, different speakers, and different activities. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And so again, thank you to everyone that's joined us today. Do want to let you know, coming soon, we are working on our landing page for NC PMI Leadership COP. So that will be coming to the NC PMI website soon and very soon. And then look out for our November virtual event. These events will be bi-monthly. So although we will be doing another event like this until November, be on the lookout. There might be some communications with some resources coming your way. So let's stay connected. And just a reminder that those that attended today live will get the attendance report. and we will submit those PDUs on your behalf. So those that are certified. And we love, 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 love hearing from all of you. So please either do the screenshot here and do the QR code, or in the chat, I have dropped the link for our survey, as well as a link to a form if you are interested in being a panelist or a speaker for the Leadership COP. Fill that out. And both of those links should be coming to you via email as well, just in case folks had to drop off early. But we thank you for your time and your attention. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Quincy, are you still on?
I think he might have dropped already.
Okay, guys, I wanted to say the lifelong learner part that he said. I definitely agree with that. I didn't want to speak. I was trying to get somebody else time to speak, so I kind of muted myself. But I just want to let him know I 100% agree with that, because I got like 5 degrees PMP. I mean, I'm just learning all the time, and I love it. I think that's how we stay abreast and informed.
Mhm.
But yeah,
And relevant. Staying relevant. Well,
Yes,
thank you so
ma'am.
much
Yes,
for joining us.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.